Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. I'm your Bunny Slipper, and today we are going to be covering builds I'm personally bringing into the final shape. That being said, let's hop right into the video. Alright, now we're switching gears to the final class, the Titan, one of the strongest classes in my opinion. Now I wanted to start this off with going into a build that absolutely smacks, and I'm going to be sad to see nerfed a little bit. It is the Stronghold Lament combo with Banner of War. This was a lot of fun. I'll be posting some clips, you might have already seen them, of this in action on Golgoroth. Being able to block with Lament and just eat every single Void Ball that Golgoroth throws at you is really fun. This is a power fantasy build. If you just want to mess around and have a good time, I definitely recommend it. You just run it with Banner of War and Into the Fray, give yourself Woven Mail, give yourself Banner of War, and just use a sword and block, and nothing can kill you in this game. I swear, even the Architects wouldn't be able to take you out. But I just want to shout this out real quick before diving into the actual builds, as this is a lot of fun, and it got me through Golgoroth with such ease. I have to give shoutouts to my friend Sin Definitive. He started using this on Golgoroth, and ever since he showed it to me, I've been using it for Golgoroth when I'm on Gaze, because it's just so easy. It's a lot of fun at the same time, which this game's about fun. I also want to point out here, so for this next build, you might see something that you're like, oh, funny, didn't that just get nerfed? Yes, it did. Everything about this build got nerfed, pretty much. They nerfed Syntheseps, they nerfed Banner of War, they've nerfed Woven Mail. Everything about this has been nerfed. However, it's still going to be really, really strong. The only thing you won't be able to do is use Navigator and spam the 1-2 punch shotgun in the air. That's going to be the only really big nerf I see with this build. Syntheseps is still going to buff your melee at the end of the day. Banner of War will still be there, just not going to last as long. And Woven Mail will still be there. Titan still has ability to get the old Woven Mail of 10 seconds by throwing a Tangle with the Aspect into the fray. So something to keep in mind, this build still is going to be really strong, and definitely still in my slot. Coming into Final Shape, pair with Sword, and wreak Havoc, get Banner of War very easily, and then just get kills. And as you can see, I have Risk Runner because I wanted to try to break the resistance in the game, and it works pretty well. To just be able to take arc damage and have an additional source of resistance on top of that. So this one's more of an honorable mention, but if you're going to be doing some boss damage on an Arc Titan, definitely still have Curse of the Falling Star equipped. I know it's kind of a no-brainer at this point for it, but if you don't know, Curse will buff super damage a lot, and it's something that you can use for Aatrox still to this day, and it will still get you by. But the main thing on this, have 10 resilience and just stay alive, honestly. It's still one of the best damage supers in the game, so I always have one of these slotted for if I ever need to do damage to a mini boss or final boss in a raid. But speaking of Arc Titans, let's move on to the next one in our build here. Again, we're on a Striker Titan with Thunder Crash. We have Thruster, Strafe Lift, Thunderclap, which is our main star of this build, and a Pulse Grenade. So we're using Touch of Thunder to create Ionic Traces with our enhanced Pulse Grenades, which will give us more ability energy, and Knockout, so we are able to get our health back a little bit by critically wounding a target and hitting them with a melee and getting the kill. So that'll make us amplified as well, which will increase our overall movement and survivability. So we have Spark of Discharge, so our arc weapons have a chance for Ionic Traces. You can use any arc weapon. I was using Indebted Kindness or Risk Runner, as those are some of the best arc weapons in my opinion. And then Spark of Pace, so increased resilience, recovering ability while sprinting. Spark of Resistance, so while we're surrounded, we are also more resistant to incoming damage. And Feedback, so if we take melee damage, we're going to do more output. And that's going to pair with our Point Contact Cannon Brace. So you gain melee energy with your Thunderclap hits, and targets when you use your Thunderclap suffer lightning damage and become jolted. Being amplified increases the damage of these lightning strikes. So again, if you're amplified and you are winding up this melee, you get hit by a melee hit, it's going to buff your damage again with that fragments we have slotted into this. With this one, definitely want heavy-handed though for this. It's just free orbs at this point, so you might as well run that. Same with firepower. It's going to get a buff, so it's going to be increase of damage, so you don't have to wind it up as much to get the damage you want. So like for smaller enemies, you can just tap the button and it'll do, I think it was 22 or 33% more damage off the initial, and has a higher damage cap, so you can hold it and the overall damage is going to be buffed. And again, you want an arc siphon to feed into your surges, but the big one I'm using on this is I'm using Better Already with Invigoration with Absolution. So it's all about picking up orbs on this build. And since we have Ionic Traces active, you're going to want to get Arc Kills to activate your orbs of power, and then when you use your Titan dodge, if you will, thruster, with Powerful Attraction, you're going to be able to get all that health back and a bunch of ability energy to further feed the chain of melees. That was my biggest spec into this, is just how many of the point contact cannon, brace, thunderclaps can we get out. And this I found to be one of the better ones. I tested it out with something like Melee Kickstart and Font of Vigor, but I found that just picking up orbs to generate the energy instantly was just as useful as having it take all of your armor charges to spec into it. So really I found this one to be better. I did test this one. This is my personal opinion. You can do what other streamers say and run the Kickstart or the Vigor. You could even run both. Doesn't really matter, it comes down to preference, but at the end of the day, I'd rather stay alive so I can throw another melee rather than being able to just throw out another melee and then die a few seconds later because I should have had some healing. Alright, now we're moving on to my personal #1 pick for the Titan going into final shape, and that's the Pyrogale Gauntlets. The big thing about this is it buffs Consecration immensely with the fire tornado it generates, but it also is going to work with Prismatic, so you can easily use this with the Prismatic when you're running the Legendary campaign. That's a really big deal for me, is being able to use it on the shiny new thing come final shape. But in the meantime, on Sunbreaker, you want to run Burning Maul, so it also gets buffed by the Pyrogales, Towering Barricade, Strafe Lift, Hammer Strike, Healing Grenade to increase our survivability, and Consecration, of course, since that is what this build is focused around. And then we have Soul Invictus on there, just so that way we can create sunspots. I found them to be more beneficial because the sunspots will also scorch damage onto targets that are in it, as well as giving restoration when you enter it. So it's a nice little buff as well as a damage output option. And we have Ember of Ashes to increase our scorch damage, Mercy to increase our restoration effects when we get revives on allies, as well as the fire sprites. Then we have Searing, so when we defeat those scorched targets, we're going to grant melee energy and create a fire sprite to feed right into the restoration. And Soul Ignition spreads scorch to affected targets. You pretty much guarantee an ignition if you hit enemies with the uppercut and the downswing of consecration, so it's worth running Char for this reason. And that's why I spec'd into it. On this build, I also managed to get 10 resilience, 10 recovery, and 9 strength, so I'm going to be cooking these melees up constantly. My recovery is the highest it can be, and my resilience is the best it can be. So this is going to be my all-around #1 pick going into it. Again, you would want to spec into resilience and the melee the most, though. Recovery is just something I like to slot in because it feels better for me. To be able to get my health back faster after I take damage and want to dip into cover and get back in the fight faster. Stuff like Better Already is going to help, which for this build I had Invigoration because I was healing so much off of fire sprites. I didn't see the need for it, but if you're still struggling to stay alive and you want that little bit of extra healing, just slot Better Already in there. But in the meantime, anything to reduce your melee cooldown is going to be the best. As always, thank you for tuning in and making it this far, and I hope to catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching. And if you like, I'll kiss you.